Chapter 1741. Explanation. 10 minutes later, Ray had finished arranging her art display, and Opal had all the footage that she needed, so the spider cleaned up the illusionary domain, ensuring that nothing would end up splattering on the library by accident when they dispelled it. Remy would not be happy if that happened. With everything cleaned, Opal released the spells and returned them all to the library, where a large group of elders had gathered, looking impatient. You've come back. It seems that the incident has sorted itself out? Or would you like to file a harassment report? One of the elders asked, neither knowing nor caring what had actually happened. There was no mess, and the victim was still here, along with an elder from her clan and an impartial witness, so it should be fine. No, I don't think that will be necessary. They were suitably repentant when I saw them last, Dana replied. She gave the elders her best smile and released a bit more of her aura, spreading fox charm through the library. The elder snorted in amusement. He knew perfectly well that she was just trying to distract him from asking about what had actually happened by acting innocent. But he could make a fairly educated guess. The system told him she was a golem mistress, and she had a forest trickster on her shoulder, with a demonic spider. Hiding in the shelves like this had nothing to do with her. But she still smelled like fresh blood. At least the Fae hadn't used her racial ability to create toxic fog inside the library. That spell was nasty to dispel from an enclosed area. They were about to leave when the sound of running feet came from outside. The warriors must have called their clan when they realized that things were going wrong, but they couldn't get here fast enough to make a difference in the battle. Things were over before they even realized that they were in the find-out phase of their final day. The commotion got nearly everyone's attention, including Carl, the barbarians at the barbecue shop, and the Lycans who had come with the man looking to awaken his daughter with the golem skill. Everyone was crowded around the library, wondering what was going on. Only a few realized that Carl, Elder Kushal, and Elder Alex had spread out at the back of the crowd, prepared for things to get ugly. If these reinforcements did try something, they would be trapped between their team and Dana's. It only took a second for the elders on security duty to realize the same thing, and they were not in any sort of mood to allow this to happen in the city. All right, everyone calm down. There was an incident between a few warriors and the mage of the New Home clan, but it is over. There is nothing left to see here. You can all disperse now. The attempt was valiant, but none of the dead warriors' friends was going to let it go that easily. Elder, we can't accept that. Our people were ambushed. We got the notice of 5 lost clan members only a few seconds apart, one of the reinforcements insisted. Many in the crowd looked at him like he was an idiot. If someone killed 5 of yours in only a few seconds, shouldn't you just cut your losses, not throw more bodies at the problem? What were they hoping to accomplish? Dying a full minute apart? However, with the aura of a divine fox and that gentle smile, Dana looked no more threatening than the bunnies. She even had fluffy white ears, though they were pointy, not long and rounded. The Lycan off to one side looked like a more likely threat, but nobody was accusing him of anything, and he was simply teaching a Lycan child something quietly as he watched the show. Opal fluttered off Dana's shoulder to fly toward the reinforcements. If you need closure, I can make you a memory crystal with the last words of your former clan members. You could put it in a memorial to them or something. The Lycan gave an amused bark, while Remy covered her mouth to hide her laughter. It was a massive failure, as her hands were very small and her serpentine head had a very large mouth. But she did make the effort. Elders, do you see this? They're provoking the fight. The guard shook his head. Let it go. Seriously, you don't want to fight this group. New Home Merchant Clan has had a rough week, and they're not going to play gently if you push them. Only it wasn't that simple, was it? You couldn't just tell someone to play nice after 5 of their clan members were killed without explanation. One of the librarians stepped forward. Elder, if I may? It appears that neither side is willing to back down, and I suspect that is not going to change. So, I would like to explain what happened before things get out of hand. The elder nodded, and the librarian continued. The Divine Fox was writing up a skill book for the Lycan's daughter over there when a group of 6 came in and went straight for her. They knew who they were looking for as they pushed straight through the other patrons to get to the work area. But when they reached her, they didn't make a demand for honest work They made it clear that if she didn't come with them peacefully, they would harm her. Then, she summoned a small bear golem and mocked them, telling them to go home if they knew what was good for them. After that, they attacked, and the whole fight was moved to some sort of pocket dimension. The rest is all speculation on my part, as I couldn't see through it. But the elder from the New Home clan, as well as the Leakin, were brought in with them. The elders on the city guard frowned. It looked like this was not going to be a peaceful resolution. Chapter 1742, Lucille. From the words of the witnesses, it sounds like a fairly lost challenge. What say you, Elder Blackwoods? Is that what happened? The Leakin nodded. They tried for an abduction, and found out that they could not defeat the Golem Mistress in combat. 5-on-1, they still lost. Well, I should say 6-on-1, but the spider killed one of them before sitting out the rest of the fight. The guard elder nodded. And where are the bodies? The Leakin shrugged. Probably lost into interdimensional space when the pocket dimension was closed? They didn't come back with us. It wouldn't have mattered much if they did. Most of the soul was already siphoned away, and the bodies were completely mutilated before Ray finished with them. But he would leave the little details out. The crowd didn't need to know that part. It would only make them less sympathetic to the skill bookmaker, and his pack could use a few more books in the near future. The group of reinforcements only got more angry as they heard the news, with their attention noting where Ray was standing in the back, cleaning her fingernails. She had put on fresh nail polish after the fight, and all this movement was making it dry unevenly. But she wasn't going to go back to decorating Elder Alex until she was certain that the fun part was over. The reinforcements saw that the city guard felt Dana was justified, and they weren't going to stand aside for the clan to get what they felt was justice. Not today, anyhow. This isn't over. We will not forget what you have done, the leader of the group snarled, then stomped away with the rest of his team. There were going to be plenty of opportunities in the future for them to get even. They knew where the New Home merchant clan was from, and they would find a chance to lure that Golem Mistress outside the compound to pay for her crimes. The crowd watched as they left, then mentally calculated just how strong the New Home clan's Golem Mistress might be. The Leakin said that the spider killed one, but all 6 were low-ascended elders. Her aura was hard for them to pin down, as the process required a probe with focused intent. But that could be construed as hostile, and it was hard for them to feel even a little hostile when Fox Charm was active. In the back, Carl was doing his best not to laugh at the look on the faces of the spectators. They were staring at the retreating clan members like they had come to kick a puppy for sport. Absolute disgust was the only thing he could call it, even though they had lost. Well, that was fun. Should we return to our regularly scheduled business? Dana asked. The Leakin smiled. You know, that's a great idea. Perhaps it would be a good luck charm if my daughter activated the skill book you gave her now. That's not a bad plan. But we should bring over one more person. Elder Blackwoods, I would like to introduce you to my husband, Carl, an avatar of the world dragon. The elder reached out and shook Carl's hand. Oh, excellent timing. If you're willing to assist, then I am certain that my Lucille will activate a better-than-average class. Carl nodded. I'm sure that I can do something that will help her out. The crowd, who had been spreading out to go about their days, stopped and returned to watching the spectacle. If an avatar of the world dragon was going to help someone awaken, it must mean that they had potential. Potential to be interesting to the gods and massive amounts of power tended to go hand in hand. So, this would not disappoint. Carl gestured for the girl to stand in front of him. First, you need to use that skill book. Then, we will make certain that you get everything that the gods see fit to let you have as a youth. Lucille smiled nervously as she held the golem skill book in both arms, and Carl noted that there was a small glowing stone on a charm bracelet around her wrist. From what the system told him, it should be a moonstone, a semi-precious gem that was favored by the beast gods that the Lycans followed. That was a good sign. If she was a faithful follower of one of the beast gods, she had a much better chance of getting something good. She carefully opened the book and the Summon Lesser Golem book vanished into her memory. Then, Carl activated system stones on the ground underneath her, assisting her awakening, and ensuring that she was tossed into a class selection screen instead of simply being assigned a class that could use the golem skill. For 30 agonizingly long seconds, Lucille vanished, while the golden stones shone in the sunlight. And then, she was back, looking just like she always had, only she was accompanied by 4 massive wolves with shining silver fur. They looked pretty capable, Carl decided. Plus, she got 4 of them. That usually meant that the individual golems were weaker. But there were advantages to having numbers on your side. If she got golem duplication, she would have 8 wolves, and even if they were relatively weak, that would be enough to hunt as a pack. In fact, once he examined her new system information, he could do exactly that. Who would know? Name, Lucille. Rank, Spirit Formation Immortal. Class, Wolf Lord. Avatar of the Moon Goddess. Carl smiled at her, and then looked up at the one moon that was visible in the daytime sky. Pet Sitter Carl offers knowledge, skill, golem duplication, will be gifted to the fluffy Alpha Lucille. Please boop. Carl stared at the message. That had never come up before. There were always little snide comments about the person that he was transferring the skill to, but never instructions. But who was he to argue? Boop. Lucille looked up, startled by the poke to the end of her snout, and then Carl ruffled her hair and stroked her ears. Congratulations, Avatar of the Moon Goddess. Chapter 1743. Avatar of the Moon Goddess. The Leaken Elder was staring at his daughter with a reverent look. You're saying that my daughter is the Avatar of the Moon Goddess? Carl nodded. Indeed. She has the Wolf Lord class and the favor of the Moon Goddess. I don't think that the class is innately an avatar-based class, so it's likely a matter of faith and favor. He looked down at the trinket on her wrist, which now glowed with pure white light. But everyone else was focused on the fact that 4 giant werewolves had become 8. 8 werewolves, even if they were golems that couldn't use skills, was a formidable force. Attaining such favor as a preteen was unheard of. Normally, by the time that you were named an elder, you were close to peak immortal and had attracted the attention of the gods. Carl was already an outlier in the crowd's eyes, having the title Ad Void Immortal. But getting it the moment that you awakened your first interactions with the system? That was destiny. It couldn't be anything else. It looks like the Blackwoods Pack is about to change in status. With the favor of the Moon Goddess, they must be destined for great things. One of the spectators noted. Or it could be for her mate. Don't lichens pair bond for life? She's a girl, so she would normally leave her pack to live with her partner, right? The crowd's speculation ran wild, while Lucille herself was too lost in the skill tree to pay attention to anything else. She had a lot of options available to her, but they were mostly group buffs intended for leading groups. Her class did have some more combat skills, but mostly it was a support-type class that focused on the damage output of her wolves and werewolves or lichens in her group. Not a versatile class unless you were living in a pack. But among her own people, she could buff all of them, and she even had a group regeneration skill. Not quite a healing ability, but it would reduce the need for healing, and they already regenerated quickly. It seems that the Blackwoods Pack owes you, Avatar, the Elder announced. Don't worry about it. Avatars look out for each other. Your Lucille is going to be an important figure soon enough, and I wish you the best of luck trying to navigate the politics that come with raising a young Avatar. I'm afraid that your peaceful days are over, and you'll always need to send a guard team with her when she travels. People were even stupid enough to try to steal my Dana Mage, and were soul-bonded. But Miss Lucille is an unmarried young lady with status. Carl paused there, and the Elder sighed. The older one gives me enough headaches, and now it's going to be everyone but the youngest giving me more of them. Lucille is a sensible girl, but she does love her romance stories. Opal laughed and gave the girl 2 thumbs up, which made the little Leaken giggle. They had 2 very different sorts of stories in mind. I suppose that you could arrange a marriage, but as I understand it, the lichens have a procedure for such things. The Elder laughed. Ah, the hunt. My bride came from a pack halfway across the world. We had the most glorious chase as her family followed me all the way home. The fond reminiscence in his eyes made the spectators chuckle. Lichens were an odd bunch, but when it came to love stories, they tended to have the best ones. Opal had read a few of them, and she was enthralled with them. Just picking a mate, or having the gods choose one for you, and then simply abducting her while her family chased you through the universe, and you tried to woo her seemed incredibly romantic in a very strange way. From the viewpoint of mates who didn't know about lichens, it had to be wild to simply be kidnapped by someone who insisted you were their forever person. For lichens, it was more of a sport mixed with pack politics. Still, in Opal's mind, there were many stories to be had when the relationship started with big, strong lichen arms rescuing you from a terrible situation and taking you away with a promise of forever. Now, she needed to go right. If you have issues, just bring her to the new home, and I will see that she is kept away from bad influences. We don't want any gross boy cooties on her. Kara offered, as she appeared beside the lichen girl. Lucille giggled. This stranger was funny. Leave a child of the pack unattended with a chaos badger? That's an interesting proposition. The heavy sarcasm did not go unnoticed. However, Kara simply chose to ignore it. Naturally, leaving children with badgers is always a good idea. We're actually excellent with children. Just ask any of them who have been around us, and they will assure you that we are their favorite. Elder Blackwoods did not doubt that. The ones who got them in the most trouble were almost always the most fun relative. And taking a chaos badger as an honorary relative was bound to be more interesting than studying and following rules. I will keep it in mind. However, the pack has a supreme-ranked senior elder, so I am sure that we will be alright taking care of our young for at least a few more generations. Kara shrugged. Well, that's true enough, I suppose. Do you want to join us for dinner? Our friend got the barbarians to make him a full roast pig, which will be ready in a few more hours. Until then, I can take Lucille shopping. She's got a class now, and she needs a wardrobe update to go with her new status. Those were magical words, and Ray shifted over to stand by the pair as the elder sighed. I should have known that this would happen the moment that I saw a badger. All right, let's go. I will treat Lucille to some luxuries in celebration. Kara waved off his concern. Fear not. We will cover it. Ray has a passion for decorating people, and I am an impeccable judge of necessity. We will get her all geared up to go adventuring after class when she gets home. Money was not his concern. Chapter 1744. Barbecue Party. Elder Alex sighed in relief as someone else caught Ray's attention. He now owned more outfits than he ever had in his life, and Ray was promising to send him more for being a good sport about testing things for her fashion house. He was utterly mentally exhausted by the process, and it was still early in the day. All right, everyone can split up again if you want. It's probably best that I keep my Dana mage with me, though. I don't trust those idiots to actually go away and behave. Carl suggested. Is it wrong to hope that they didn't? I mean, Dana got to have all the fun last time. I just got things moving. There weren't any in that group that had the skills to even put up a fight if I got serious. Ray noted, looking over her shoulder as she walked away with the lichen girl. No traumatizing the children. Carl warned. Got it. I knew that you'd be on board. The elders on security detail shared a concerned look, and then sent 2 of their own members to follow the spider. If they didn't, she was definitely going to commit a murder. Happily. Remy laughed from her spot on Socrate's shoulder as the elders ran after Ray and the lichens. I say that we go see what Hawk is up to. They said barbarians with whole roast pigs. That sounds like a fun place to hang out until dinner. We can see if they will test our new recipes. The crowd looked excited to hear that, but Carl was almost certain that they didn't know the pair were alchemists, not chefs. If they had known, they might have run away instead of following the group over to the barbecue joint, where the confused barbarians rushed to get everyone seated and served. It wasn't often that they got a mid-afternoon rush like this. Carl. Welcome back. I take it that the issue has been settled, the head chef asked, raising his voice to be heard from the kitchen. Indeed. It was just some idiots who thought cute meant weak. The barbarian laughed. Slow learners. Did I ever tell you about the time I got shanked by a bunny? Everyone in the restaurant turned to stare at him. What the hell did you have to do to get stabbed by a bunny? For one, they weren't immortals, so they wouldn't do much damage. But they were generally peaceful and exceptional at escaping from awkward situations. Oh, don't look at me like that. Someone put a compulsion curse on her. I just saw fluffy ears and never expected there to be a blade. Turns out, if you give a bunny a poison dagger at the immortal rank, they can do some serious damage, and they're deadly hard to catch. One of the ladies in the crowd laughed. That's no joke. I tried to catch one to give her a tip one time, and she just vanished. Like, gone the second she turned the corner. Dana laughed. You all need to take advice from Carl. He's the master of making friends with bunnies. The patrons turned to Carl, who shrugged helplessly. What can I say? I have an affinity for beastkin of all sorts. The bunnies can sense that I'm soul bonded, so they don't see me as a threat in that way, and I'm quite generous with them if I have a chance. It's just a combination of the right status and good timing. As he was speaking, one of the serving bunnies brought over a round of drinks, and Carl idly patted her head, then handed her a coin, while Kara stuffed the girl's pockets with cupcakes. The bunny was so flustered to be given a cash tip that she didn't even notice the badger. The patrons in the restaurant chuckled as they saw Carl slip the beastkin cash and pat her head before she ran away to grab the next order. That feat alone was nearly impossible to manage, but he had done it so casually that even the bunny seemed startled that it had happened. So, what are the plans for the rest of the day? Elder Alex asked, carefully testing the ale to see if it was actually good or just barbarian grog posing as ale. I was thinking that we should sit here and eat and drink until the roast pig is done, then eat some more, and perhaps have another drink. The staff at the restaurant cheered, and a number of the locals who had followed them over joined in. A party at the barbecue place it was, with everyone but Ray in one spot that greatly limited the exposure that they had to ambush. Carl didn't actually expect anyone to get the drop on Ray in an ambush. But even if they did, Ray was not an easy target to kill, and she had a protective Leakin father with her. If they endangered his daughter this time, he would not stand idly by. As the afternoon wore on, the party at the barbecue joint expanded, with more people coming and packing the place until the party had spread out of the patio and into the street. It was completely out of hand, and far beyond anything that the small clan running it had expected. They were running out of everything. Not just food, drink too. They had called for more, but the delivery hadn't arrived, and there was still time before the pigs they had put on would be ready. They had thought that one for Hawk and one for the restaurant would last them all week. But that was not going to happen. The smell of roast pork and the sound of the party were bringing more people over, and that was only encouraging more people to join the party. I can help with fire. I have the skill to transfer heat from my innate flames to the meat to bring it to perfect temperature in seconds. Hawk offered, speaking avian in crow form. You can do that? If you can, we just loaded that smoker. That one would be enough to keep up with the crowd, if it was ready now, and not in the early hours of the morning, the head chef replied. Hawk strutted over to the smoker. Now was his time to shine. He had been working on his barbecue techniques with Mystic Cooking for some time now, and he had it very close to perfection. He could even roast the wood evenly to infuse the smoky flavor that they wanted. Chapter 1745. Roll Them Bones. Hawk's dark flames roasted an entire smoker full of meat, and the aroma instantly began to spread through the kitchen. The barbarians cautiously came over to inspect, while Hawk preened his feathers proudly. They would find no issues with his barbecue technique. He could roast any meat perfectly. He knew. He had tested that theory. It was all in the seasoning and in the setup. These meats were intended to be slow roasted, so he had to moderate the fires not to get the internal temperature too hot, and to allow everything to cook as intended, even if the process was accelerated. They couldn't have tough meat. The first of them took a brisket off the rack, harvested from one of the domestic earth element cattle that were raised near the city. They were cheaper than the boars from the dungeon if they had to pay someone for the meat. But that was why they had chosen to let Hawk start on this grill. Even if he ruined it, the loss wasn't as great. The brisket slapped down onto the cutting board, oozing meaty juices, then smoothly fell into slices under the first touch of the knife. Not crumbly, but buttery soft. Alright, I admit it. The mythic cooking of the Dark Flame Phoenix is on a whole other level. This is amazing, and it only took a few seconds. I have the same skill, and we're the same level, but the difference in flame turns the whole cooking process into an entirely different cooking technique. This is perfectly done, and now we've got enough to feed the party for another hour or two, the head chef admitted. The meat was sent out as quickly as it was sliced, and the kitchen staff ran out the back to receive an order of liquor. It was late, but it had finally arrived, and now they were ready for the evening. While the majority of the group partied, Ray had nearly finished taking Lucille through a marathon shopping trip. The young Leaken Golem mage had an inexhaustible supply of energy, and Ray was determined to find the outfit that perfectly fit her personality before she went off for training. Her pack didn't have many mages, so if she was going to get practice with her skills, they would have to send her to a larger school. She could go with her peers, like the warriors did. But Elder Blackwoods knew that a proper school could teach her more things that weren't in her skill tree. Things that the pack would have to buy skill books for, as they didn't have any of their own. However, her fashion choices didn't look like anything that he would have expected an aspiring mage to pick. The elder had assumed his daughter, who had a great love for all things magic, would have gone for mage robes of some sort. But that wasn't at all what she was picking when Ray gave her options. Right now, she had on a black silk blouse that had flowers embroidered growing up the sides of the torso, paired with black slacks made of some sort of soft fabric. She looked more like an office executive now, despite her youth. But 5 minutes ago, she had picked leather pants and coat with fur trim and a chainmail vest that was woven with golden wire to contrast with the black. There really wasn't any pattern to it that he could see, other than all the things she picked went with her fur. However, to Ray, it all made sense. The girl wanted to look cute, but she came from a warrior culture. Cute and warrior fashion simply didn't mix in a traditional way. Warriors wanted to look as strong as possible, so they stayed away from cute. To the warriors, cute often meant weak. Ray didn't believe that. Her sisters were cute, and they were incredibly dangerous. Even Leo could be dangerous. Tion was too fluffy to be threatening. From a table in the restaurant, where he was playing a Johnny tune on his zither, accompanied by a pair of bards on the drums and lute, Tion laughed. Indeed, he was too cute to be threatening. But he also didn't like physical confrontation. It tended to get him dirty, and he hated dirt on his fur. Kara was the polar opposite. Dirt was fun, especially pocket sand, second only to pocket cupcakes as a pocket filler. She was across the room from the rest of the team, as she had joined a game of dice. The other players all thought that they were smart, putting subtle enchantments for luck or roll patterns on the dice. But Kara had hit the dice with randomize on her first roll, and now the outcomes were absolute chaos, as the spells fought for dominance. One very frustrated card shark class rogue had just rolled, only to have both dice settle into cracks in the table and end their roll edge up. Closest to the roll wins. That's me again. Kara laughed. What the fuck?
No.
How can you win with a wager of snake eyes when there is no face showing? No pips, no count. 2 is the lowest bet, right? Kara countered. The others frowned. Then a barbarian shrugged and thumped the table. The dice fell over, rolled once, and showed snake eyes. Well, that settles it. I win. Kara laughed.
Damn it.
The badger's luck is unholy. A cleric at the next table turned to face them and shook her head. No. She decursed the dice and made them truly random. It's not that she's lucky, it's that none of you are, and she's betting for maximum chaos. The gamblers sighed. Bullshit. Luck doesn't end like that. Ante up, and let's get the dice rolling. The cleric sighed as she turned away. Gambling against an agent of chaos was a fool's errand. Even if she lost, she won. Because she wasn't in it for money. She was there for the entertainment. Chapter 1746. Decorated Leaken. Finally, Ray had managed to assemble a wardrobe for Lucille from a combination of what the local shops had and what she had in storage. The girl had a definite fondness for black, but in a more feminine way than Ray did. However, she had also managed to get her everything that she needed for both hot and cold seasons, as well as formal occasions. Despite the Leaken insisting that she didn't need a dress. See how happy your dad is. Besides, if you go off to a mage school, there will be formal dances for the holidays and someone is definitely going to ask you to go with them, so you need a dress. Probably too, because the other girls will be jealous of how cool you are and will try to ruin one by spilling something on it. Ray insisted. Lucille rolled her eyes, but her father nodded. That happened no less than 3 times during my senior year's final dance. Girls are vicious when they think their territory is threatened. Lucille frowned. She had seen that within the pack as well. The older girls claimed boys as their own, often without telling him. Then they would scare off any other girl who tried to approach him, so their position as his girlfriend wasn't threatened. The idea was that he would pick her as his mate after school ended. Only the current trend for the boys in class was to go on a grand adventure looking for their fated one, so that they could have a proper game to steal their bride, not a symbolic one for a chosen partner. Lucille agreed with them. She thought that it would be much better to wait and have that perfect Leakin simply show up at her window or classroom one day and sweep her off her feet. In the most literal sense of the word, as Leakin courting rituals started with an abduction to bring your bride home to meet your family. Lucille was a bit lost in her fantasies, and Ray used that as the perfect opportunity to get her into a few more dresses for her father's review. A father had different opinions of his daughter's fashion than she did, as a general rule, but these should be approved by both. At least while Lucille was too distracted to object to being put into dresses. The shopkeeper tried not to laugh as the spider quickly moved the Leakin girl in and out of her changing room, showing off outfits every few minutes. They had gone through a third of the store and had done much more at other shops along the street, she had heard. But they had bought new things at every shop, so nobody was complaining. Ray finished up and paid the tab, then had Lucille put the bundle in her inventory. All right, all finished. Let's go back and join the others. They're having a barbecue party. Both Lycan's ears perked up. I thought that might be the case. Everyone else from our dungeon team is there now, and the beasts are helping with both cooking and entertainment. It should be a great time. Well, what are we waiting for? Elder Blackwood picked up Lucille so that the girl didn't remember that she was in a cute overalls and blouse outfit in time to change. But before he could leave the shop, 3 big goons from the same sect that had tried to grab Dana earlier blocked the door. A present for me? Ray cooed lovingly. The shopkeeper shivered as a chill ran up her spine. She needed to get this out of her shop before she lost everything. The elders of the security force, who had been unobtrusively watching, stepped out of the shadows. Gentlemen, I suggest that you reconsider causing trouble today. Ray frowned. She thought that they were there to serve as witnesses. What were they doing causing trouble for her? Elders. You misunderstand. We were hoping to have a conversation with Elder Blackwoods about the future of his pack, the man countered. If they trouble you, tell us, and we will bring the wrath of the Dark Light host on them. Ray whispered into the Leakin's sensitive ear. That gave Elder Blackwoods a bit more confidence. His pack was a small one, tiny compared to most of the local sects. If someone came for them in force, they were in a lot of trouble. They did have strong elders, but that didn't matter as much when you were hugely outnumbered. You wish to discuss the future of my pack. Now, we don't take well to threats. So, I do hope you're thinking of a civil discussion. The men gave him a cruel smile, while the elders sighed. They likely wouldn't pick a fight here in the city, but they could give the Leakin a lot of trouble the moment that he left town, and the pack's territory wasn't far from the city limits. It seemed that another clan war was inevitable. Only, they had no idea who would stand with the Blackwoods pack and who would stand with the attackers. Both were very minor forces, hardly worth mentioning in the grand scheme of things. But the aggressors had just lost half a dozen of their men today. Were they even strong enough to be issuing threats? Especially in front of that psychotic spider. If they really wanted to start a fight, she would definitely get the new home merchant clan members involved, and then it would turn into an all-out war. Something that the city really didn't need. They weren't far enough from New Home Merchant Clan that they could guarantee that the rest of the clan wouldn't show up to make a point. If they walked through the city with those 10 Supremes that were supposed to have come out of seclusion for the war with the Templars, the whole region would be up in arms. That kind of show of force would be a direct threat to the Almixii sect's dominance of the region. But it would also say that the new home wasn't going to suffer insults or slights gracefully, the way that they had in the past. They were openly mocked as the newbies, and never let it bother them. 2 wars in the same month would definitely change people's opinion of them. Chapter 1747. The Spirit of Giving. As if thinking about it had triggered the worst outcome, Elder Blackwood suddenly got a system message that a group of his people had been attacked on the way to town. That was followed quickly by a clan war system message over the area. A smile slowly spread over Ray's face, and the security elders shuddered in horror. These idiots might not have been paying attention, but they knew what had happened in Gralpedron. Gentlemen, I will apologize in advance for the mess. But the Darklight host is allied with the Blackwoods pack. The security elder sighed. Since when? About 4 hours ago? Either way, we're allied now and… Ray stopped speaking just long enough to shadow step and use her favorite poison daggers to decapitate 2 of the warriors. Gods above, how much attack power does she have? One of the security elders muttered as the 3rd goon fell to his knees, clearly planning to beg for his life. He wouldn't get the chance. Ray collected the corpses, then waved her hand, and absorbed the blood on the floor before anyone could track it around the shop. Security gentlemen, can you take Miss Lucille to the barbecue party? My friends are there to take care of her, and I have to go see a guy about a thing. Elder Blackwell chuckled. Their clan compound is on the south side of the city, the tan sandstone walls, next to the Cooper's warehouse. Ray nodded, then vanished. Shit. I'll send security elders over there. What's she thinking? Going alone? Blackwell shrugged. Going by what just happened, I would say that she's not actually concerned about her safety. They only have 10 more ascended elders and no supreme-ranked leader. But on that note, I will take Lucille to safety. It's on my way to their compound. The little mage growled. I can help. I have a class now. Her father patted her on the head. Calm down, little one. Let the Darklight host members keep you safe, and we will start our combat training later. At the party, Carl could sense what happened, as Ray was now in the attacking clan's compound. That was hard to miss. It looks like we have to intervene. It wouldn't look good if our allies took heavy losses. Only I don't know where the Blackwoods pack is, he informed Dana with an annoyed sigh. Why did someone have to start things in the middle of a party? One of the barbarians came over and handed him a crude map. They're southeast of the gate by 5 kilometers. Nearly in the city, by Leakin standards. They weren't big enough to claim a good spot in the deep woods. They do have a few peak immortal elders, so I doubt that they'll lose the fight. But if you want to go assist your allies, that's where they are. Can I do the thing? Hawk asked in Carl's mind. Ray is in the building, and she will be upset if you set it on fire around her. Hawk considered his options. He could go set the group attacking the pack on fire instead. Today was a good day for fire. He just had to finish up with these 2 smokers full of fresh meat, and then he would head right over. All right, I will go assist our allied pack. Gentlemen, I will return in a moment. The barbarians laughed at his complete confidence that one more immortal would be enough to make a difference. Unless there were more Darklight host members coming, as it was clear that the New Home Merchant clan considered this none of their business. Not a surprising position, as nearly every other group in the city thought the same way. In fact, nobody was coming to assist either side of this battle except Carl and Ray. Carl stepped outside, then flew over the building by a few hundred meters before transforming into the avatar of the World Dragon and taking off for the pack. Is he going to make a point? That's a big dragon. The barbarian asked Dana as Carl left. Oh, definitely. I think that one of our guild members wants to claim the pack, so he's gone to make sure that they all know we're helping. And what better way than by doing it as a massive dragon? Carl laughed at Dana's words. Keeping the Lycans was always an option. She even knew a good spot to put them. There was a whole empty clan compound in the woods, where they had gotten the bunnies from. That was close enough to the new home to protect them easily, and it would give them more territory. Nobody had moved in yet, as technically it was spoils of war for the New Home Merchant clan. But the new home didn't need it, and it wasn't in great shape to start with. Once she advanced, they could set Lotus loose on the pack as well. Call it a branch office of the Darklight host, and she would have a whole lot more fluffy people around. You had to look out for your friends, right? Dana realized that something was influencing her thoughts the moment those words flashed through her mind. Being bonded with Carl, and the team was changing the way that she thought in the most subtle and insidious ways. That one was likely a Thor-based thought, but it could have been any of them. They were all either fiercely protective of their friends, or extremely loyal. Elder Blackwoods ran in with Lucille in his arms, and Tion leapt off the table to land in the girl's arms, making her giggle. Hi. Am I making friends today? Dana smiled at her. You will stay here with us for the fight. That is Tion, and he's a friend of Ray's. Tion nodded. There is more meat coming. Do you like roast meat? Oh, they've got spiced honey water too. It's better than the alcohol, and I can't drink too much milk without getting full. Lucille nodded. She liked all those things. But lichens processed alcohol too fast to get drunk, so they rarely bothered with it. Chapter 1748. Point made. Carl flew over the city, attracting very little attention until everyone watching realized that he was headed for the Blackwoods Pack. He could see the battle from here, with the lichens gathered at the edge of the small cluster of houses that was their pack compound. There were far more lichens than he had expected from the number of houses, and they were all excellent fighters, holding a defensive barrier against the intruders, while two of their elders fought the invading clan's elders overhead. It was the same sort of setup that the new home had used, but on a much smaller scale. The invaders barely looked up as Carl landed behind their lines. Then, he called Oathbreaker and the Spirit Bear Tyrant. The unfamiliar summon creatures caught their attention, and Carl laughed. "Gentlemen, greetings from the Darklight host, allies of the Blackwoods Pack." Then, he added undead minions and the undead army, bringing Lich Lords and Spectral Knights to the battlefield. The effect was instant and devastating. A miasma of death energy spread through the attackers as the Spectral Knights charged. Then, Oathbreaker teleported into the middle of the group, attacking feverishly, knowing that the damage would spread through the entire group. The Spirit Bear Tyrant shook his head for a second. He didn't actually need to be here at all. However, there was someone attacking a small furry person who was rushing for the compound. He would go protect that person. Carl looked down at the battlefield. Being a massive dragon had advantages. Then, he sent a gout of dragon breath into the melee, causing the plants to grow and entangle the attackers, while corroding the equipment of anyone hostile to the pack. For a second, Carl considered going all out. Then, he realized that the enemy force was already faltering, and even ones that weren't in imminent danger were beginning to panic. They had received the message from the members who were still at their home compound. The non-combat classes and weaker immortals who weren't fit for an attack. They outnumbered the Blackwoods Pack more than 30-1, just counting the ones who had come to fight. But that no longer mattered. Their home compound had fallen, and the surviving members were fleeing, even as the security elders from the city had come to keep the chaos contained. Ray was not happy. As soon as they realized what was going on, the majority of the members had fled out into the city, and the humans who called themselves security elders wouldn't let her hunt them in the streets. How was she supposed to finish the fight if she couldn't hunt the one who ran away? They were flagged as valid targets by the system, so it should be fine, right? What was this nonsense about civilian casualties and property damage? She would pay if she broke any buildings. They were entirely too restrictive about this whole thing. So, instead of chasing the ones who got away, Ray began organizing a diorama in the clan compound with the ones who did not. And the elders immediately began to regret not letting her leave. At the pack compound, the Blackwoods warriors surged out into the battle, joining Carl's team in combat. They would defeat this threat today, and if their ally was confident in not letting them exhaust themselves on the barrier first, that was fine as well. Long-armed and larger than humans, the warriors of the pack had a distinct reach advantage in close combat, even when they weren't using oversized two-handed weapons. The lichens were vicious in combat, but the barriers had failed, and the members who had realized that their clan had been ambushed while they were here had been worked up into a frenzied rage. Meteors began to crash down on the pack village, chasing children out to the edge of town, where the Spirit Bear Tyrant was collecting them under his prodigious form. He was immune to nearly everything that the clan could throw at him, but after the first few, nobody was even trying to attack him. They were just letting him protect the children, so that the invincible bear didn't get any notions about tearing into them when they already had enough problems. The buildings were just wooden structures with thatch roofs. They didn't last a single barrage, but they could be quickly rebuilt if the pack wanted to after the battle. Ray stopped her work as people entered the clan compound. Had someone come to fight? No, it was just those assholes from the security force who ruined her fun. Give me a moment, I need to put the sign up. She shouted, still in spider form. The elders paused, unsure what she meant. Ray, shadow stepped to the front room, then dipped her finger in the closest pool of blood and began to write on the top of a broken table. Tel Justo Haunted House. Limited time only. Enter at your own risk. She took the table outside and propped it against the wall. All right, now it's all ready. Enjoy. The elders stared at the sign, momentarily stunned beyond words. Then they realized that the spider was gone. If she had gone to hunt in the city, the clan leaders were going to give them a serious headache at the next council meeting. She's gone to the Blackwoods Pack. The patrols reported her arrival just a second ago. The battle there is nearly over, so this clan war is going to be resolved in a matter of minutes. The group's rogue informed them. The elder smiled. I'm glad that they managed to work it out. The rogue went pale and shook his head. Work it out? No, not at all. The Darklight host simply rolled in and killed everyone. There's some fuck-off huge damned dragon there, breathing curses and summoning undead, while a spirit bear tyrant has our patrols scared stiff. I don't know how they got it out of the dungeon, but they've confirmed that it's real, not an illusion. Who are these Darklight host people? Is it some sort of elite enforcement team of a larger clan? Every time we hear about them, they're doing something insane. The rogue tilted his chin toward the house. Like turning a clan compound into a haunted house, using the corpses of the residents? Yeah, they were going to have to clean that up. But they couldn't just loot the place without triggering an addition to the clan war. They had to wait for it to end, and the haunted house was attracting attention. Chapter 1749. Check for casualties. By the time that Ray arrived at the battlefield, things were already finished, and the Blackwoods Pack was beginning to check for casualties. It was much less than expected, but one thing that Ray noted was that the pack was supposed to have a supreme-ranked elder, and she didn't see one. Not alive, and not dead. No issues dealing with the flunkies? Ray asked as she made her way to Carl.
None.
There was a fight overhead, but it broke up without any casualties, and the clan leader of the attackers fled. They didn't return to their house in the city, so I'm assuming that you took care of that. It was lovely, thank you. Honestly, these people have been too good to me lately. But what are we going to do with our new friends? Some jerks broke their houses. Carl chuckled, as he already knew where Ray was going with this line of questioning. All right, I will talk to them. They might want to rebuild, as their houses were quite simple. That might be a Leakin thing. Or it might have simply been a concession to avoid attracting attention. When you're dealing with immortals, the interior doesn't necessarily match the exterior. At least, that's how it worked for him. I will go find their leader. They should have a supreme, but I don't see them. They might be hiding their aura. She moved quickly through the lichens and then sent out a mental ping to Remy. You need to come here. There are injured potential test subjects here. Only a few dead, so maybe bring Tion as well. Wait, can he even resurrect? Never mind, they have clerics. Just come here with potions. The Naga appeared in her space, then came out with her bodyguards and a pair of healing totems active. That should make it clear that she was a healer. Then Leo decided to follow her. If two of his sisters were doing fun things, he wanted to do them too. Plus, he knew how to heal. The sight of a juvenile tortellin, with a meat kebab in either hand, dancing through the carnage, using rejuvenation to heal everyone he came near, was a completely incongruous sight to the lichens. But Leo had come prepared, and Hawk had granted him a whole stack of kebabs from his own personal stash. Leo didn't really even like them. Now, if they had been fish kebabs, that would have been an entirely different matter. But he was handing them out to the wounded the way that Kara handed out cupcakes to the poor, and the lichens were huge fans of all things meat. The Blackwoods Pack smiled as they realized that the little turtle boy was just being helpful, giving out his version of emergency rations and healing to the people, starting near where Carl was still standing in dragon form, in case someone decided to come and make more trouble. The lichens watched the little turtle carefully. He looked like a vulnerable child, where Ray was very clearly dangerous, and the Naga had bodyguards with her. The reinforcements of the Darklight host were an odd bunch, but they had sent exactly what the village needed at the moment. Healers, food, and someone to make sure that there were no more attackers hiding around the village. I found the pack leader. And now I know why they weren't out fighting. They're injured, and it's something strange. I think that they might have failed the advancement from Supreme to Legendary. Ray informed Carl. That could definitely take some time to recover from. Even in the mortal ranks, there was backlash if you failed to break through. At the level of a peak Supreme, there had to be an exponentially larger backlash if you hit the bottleneck and failed to break through. especially if you tried to force it. Having one of their pack members make legendary would make them a top force in the world, despite the tiny size of the pack. Or it might have happened some time ago and they lost members when the pack leader was injured. It was impossible to tell without seeing the leader or asking someone. Ray reached the Elder, where he was sitting in some sort of protective barrier inside a separate space in one of the now destroyed buildings. He was completely unaware of the world around him, or perhaps simply unable to react in any meaningful way. The barrier was supreme ranked, and his energy was still holding it together, so Ray thought he likely wasn't comatose. He simply couldn't spare any energy to respond to the attack. Elder Blackwoods reached Ray just after she found the pack elder and stopped beside the spider, with a concerned look on his face. I see that you found him. Well, now that the cat's out of the bag, I suppose that the pack really will have to relocate, he sighed. Ray shrugged. It's not like I will tell anyone who will use it against you. But there are security people from the city nearby, and they'll notice soon. However, I do have a proposal for you. There is an empty clan compound not far from the new home merchant clan. It used to belong to the Hyperion sect, until we wiped them out. They abandoned their compound, and left nothing but the bunnies behind. Now, we've already claimed the bunnies. But the compound is intact, so you could move the pack there, and we would place it under our protection. The new home would do that? Ray shrugged. I meant the Darklight host. But I'm sure that clan leader Nerissa would be happy to work out something with your pack. She's quite open-minded when it comes to helpful things. How many Darklight host members are on this world? I heard that more arrived for the battle from another world, not another continent. Ray nodded. Technically, too. However, if you count the bonded partners, just enough to make a proper branch. Elder Blackwoods chuckled. Well, just one of them here today was enough to steamroll through a minor clan. The power of having such an advanced class and the favor of the World Dragon can't be underestimated.
Exactly. So, what do you say?
Want to relocate? We will help you get it all set up and even take your pack into the guild so that you can get access to our good stuff. Now, she was making an offer the pack might not be able to afford to refuse. Chapter 1750. Convince the leader. You said that the Darklight host has good stuff. But what does that entail exactly? Wait, let me bring the Carl. He's good at the sales pitch. What am I selling them? Guild membership for the pack. I bet that they're actually really good craftsmen once we get them pointed in the right direction, Ray explained.
I see.
Well, the Darklight host is primarily a crafting guild. But we have a number of bonuses to our guild houses and a guild-wide bonus that is quite popular with the members. You see, we have an item that grants the whole guild the physical stats of their peak development, which was actually much more important to the mortal branches. But we also have an incredible guild skill. It's called Ancient Wisdom, and it allows a member to grant one skill from themselves or one of their summoned creatures to their entire party. So you can have the healer grant the whole group a healing skill, or the druid grant them all increased regeneration, or even just have everyone learn how to cast Chaos Vortex. But mostly, we use it to allow apprentices to use high-ranking trade skills so that they can pick the one that is most appealing to them, or so that we can draft them into helping one of the teams. The elder blinked slowly, and one of the peak immortal elders who had been shadowing Leo came over to join the conversation. You're saying that you could grant the entire pack the ability to use an advanced crafting skill? Carl nodded. Blacksmithing, inscription, alchemy, runecrafting, mystic cooking. There are a lot of options available that can be taught to the pack, not just temporarily. We are a crafting guild, so if your pack members would like to join us, we would also teach them to use advanced crafting skills to make them self-sufficient. If your pack was making epic-grade items, I suspect that you would not be short on funding to rebuild the compound we are offering. However, we also have educational facilities for the children, and an arrangement can be made to integrate your children into the new home schools if you would prefer not to have them mingle with our mortal members. You keep mortals? We have branches in mortal worlds, but also we've got bunnies. Elder Blackwoods chuckled. You'll get a kick out of this guy. He can just pat bunnies on the head, and they don't run away. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's like he doesn't process as a threat in their brains. Even the clerics with, if not friend, why friend shaped. struggle with that. We will need to put it to a vote. Any matter this large, especially when the pack leader is incapacitated, requires a 2/3 majority. That's how we've been doing things while he recovers. And when he's awake, he's a Leakin pack leader, both in title and in class. He has the authority to just issue orders, and we will follow. I see how it is now. All right, if you want to gather your pack here, we will wait for you to explain the situation, and then you can put it to a vote. If your people don't want to move, we will help you rebuild the village. We've got the skills to make it as good as new in a few hours. That is very generous of you. Far more than I would expect of strangers. Ray laughed and wrapped an arm around his shoulder. Your daughter is sitting with my little brother, wrapped in silk that I made. How could you call us strangers? But really, it's so easy for Carl and Leo that they literally could reassemble the houses in a matter of minutes. The elders looked skeptical, so Carl made a dramatic waving gesture and then used earth manipulation, repair object, and plant growth to rebuild a stone house with wood floors and roof tiles. The houses here had been incredibly simple to start with, so that was actually an improvement on what it had been.
See.
Not a big deal. I could do dozens at a time, but if you're leaving, there's no need. The Leakin pack gathered and began to animatedly discuss the possibilities of moving to a new location. Most of them knew where the Hyperion sect had been, even if they'd never been inside the compound before. What mattered was that it was technically within the training area that the new home merchant clan used, and there weren't any close neighbors. That made them much more remote, though they were near the shore. That was a selling point for the Lycans. They didn't like being surrounded by people all the time, as they were very attuned to nature. While the compound was likely to be in poor shape, as they didn't know that the few surviving clan members had evacuated before being forced, they were sure that there should be enough housing for them. Especially if Carl was willing to help. However, that meant that they would have to move away from their usual hunting grounds and the dungeon that they had gotten quite used to using. They could still come back, but it wouldn't be nearly as convenient. I think that we need to wake the pack leader for this. Moving is too big for just a vote. One of the other elders suggested. What if waking him makes his condition worse? He's already like that, just trying to mitigate the damage. If he wakes, he might lose years of progress. So it had been some time since he was injured, Carl realized. Well, they were immortals. Technically, they had forever. I believe that I can wake him without damage. His aura is stable, and he's not taking ongoing damage. So, the worst of the lingering damage will be to his mind and progression.
Carl explained.
However, that didn't reassure them much. If the pack leader's mind was damaged, it wouldn't matter if they woke him, but he might be feral, and that would be a danger to everyone.